A silent war rages within America's borders. It is a war waged not by nations but by criminal organizations. These groups operate in the shadows, their influence extending like a virus through cities and towns. They traffic in drugs and humans, they peddle addiction and exploit desperation. Their violence is often sudden and brutal, leaving communities traumatized and law enforcement scrambling for answers. This is the reality of organized crime in the 21st century. This is not the stuff of Hollywood gangster movies. Gone are the days of pinstriped suits and backroom deals. Today's criminal enterprises are complex and sophisticated. They operate across borders, exploiting globalization and technology to their advantage. They are deeply embedded in the fabric of society, their tentacles reaching into every corner of American life. The stakes are higher than ever before. The rise of fentanyl, a deadly synthetic opioid, has fueled a public health crisis of unprecedented proportions. Human smuggling networks prey on the vulnerable, generating billions of dollars while subjecting migrants to unspeakable horrors. And as these organizations grow in power and influence, they pose a direct threat to the very foundations of law and order. This is not just a problem for law enforcement to solve. It is a societal ill that demands a comprehensive and multifaceted response. This is a war that will be won, not just with badges and guns, but with education, prevention, and the unwavering commitment of communities across the nation. Organized crime in America has undergone a dramatic transformation. The traditional mafia families, once synonymous with power and violence, have been eclipsed by a new breed of criminal enterprise. These are not just gangs, but sophisticated cartels modeled after multinational corporations. The old mafia thrived on control, operating within defined territories and adhering to a strict code of conduct. Their power was rooted in fear and intimidation, but also in a sense of order and predictability. Today's cartels play by a different set of rules. They are driven solely by profit, unconstrained by traditional boundaries or moral considerations. The rise of globalization has played a key role in this evolution. The free flow of goods and people across borders has created new opportunities for criminal organizations to exploit. At the same time, advances in technology, particularly in communications and finance, have made it easier for them to operate and evade detection. The internet, once hailed as a tool for democratization and progress, has become a breeding ground for criminal activity. Cartels use social media platforms to recruit new members, often targeting vulnerable youth with promises of wealth and status. They leverage encrypted messaging apps to coordinate operations and move money across borders with impunity. This digital transformation has made these organizations more agile, adaptable, and difficult to combat than ever before. At the heart of America's current crime wave lies a potent and deadly substance, fentanyl. This synthetic opioid, up to 100 times stronger than heroin, has flooded the streets of American cities and towns, leaving a trail of death and despair in its wake. It is cheap to produce, easy to smuggle, and incredibly addictive, making it the perfect commodity for criminal organizations looking to maximize profits. The fentanyl crisis did not emerge overnight. It is the result of a complex interplay of factors, including the overprescription of painkillers, the globalization of drug trafficking, and the relentless pursuit of profit by criminal organizations. The production of fentanyl typically begins in China, where precursor chemicals are manufactured and then shipped to Mexico. There, sophisticated cartel-run labs transform these chemicals into the finished product, which is then smuggled across the border into the United States. Once in the United States, fentanyl is often mixed with other drugs such as heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine, or pressed into counterfeit pills made to look like legitimate prescription medications. This tactic deceives unsuspecting users, who may believe they are taking a relatively safe dose of a familiar drug, only to ingest a potentially lethal dose of fentanyl. The impact of the fentanyl crisis has been devastating. Overdose deaths have skyrocketed in recent years, driven largely by the proliferation of fentanyl. It has touched every corner of society, claiming the lives of young and old, rich and poor, urban and rural. The human smuggling industry is a billion-dollar enterprise that operates in the shadows, exploiting the desperation of migrants seeking a better life. Driven by poverty, violence, and lack of opportunity in their home countries, millions of people each year risk everything to reach the United States. They pay exorbitant fees to smugglers, known as coyotes, who promise safe passage but often deliver them into a nightmare of abuse and exploitation. The journey north is fraught with danger. Migrants are often crammed into sweltering tractor trailers, forced to march for days through harsh terrain without adequate food or water, or hidden in dangerous compartments of vehicles. Many die along the way, their bodies left to decompose in the desert heat. Those who survive the journey often find themselves at the mercy of their smugglers. They may be held hostage, forced into prostitution or labor, or extorted for additional payments. Women and children are particularly vulnerable, often subjected to sexual violence and trafficking. The human smuggling industry is inextricably linked to the broader ecosystem of organized crime. Cartels control many of the smuggling routes and often use the same networks to move drugs and people. They prey on the most vulnerable members of society, exploiting their desperation for profit. This callous disregard for human life is a stain on the conscience of humanity. Section 5. The Business of Crime. Modern-day cartels bear little resemblance to the romanticized image of old-school mafia families. They operate as sophisticated multinational corporations, with complex hierarchies, diversified portfolios, and global reach. Their tentacles extend far beyond the drug trade, encompassing human smuggling, extortion, kidnapping, and money laundering. At the helm of these criminal enterprises are powerful kingpins, often shrouded in secrecy and protected by layers of loyal lieutenants. They oversee vast networks of operatives, each with specialized skills and responsibilities, from logistics and transportation to money laundering and enforcement. Cartels have proven adept at adapting to changing market conditions and exploiting new technologies. They have harnessed the power of the internet to expand their reach, recruit new members, and move money across borders with ease. Social media platforms have become fertile recruiting grounds, particularly for vulnerable youth who are lured by the promise of easy money and a glamorous lifestyle. Money laundering is the lifeblood of any criminal organization, and cartels have developed sophisticated mechanisms to clean their ill-gotten gains. They utilize shell companies, offshore accounts, and complex financial transactions to obscure the origin of their funds. They have also embraced cryptocurrencies, which offer a degree of anonymity and decentralization that traditional financial institutions cannot match. Section 6. Fighting an adaptive enemy. Law enforcement agencies face an uphill battle in their fight against organized crime. Cartels are agile, adaptable, and ruthless, constantly evolving their tactics to stay one step ahead of the authorities. They exploit weaknesses in the justice system, corrupt officials, and use violence and intimidation to maintain control. Traditional law enforcement methods such as raids, arrests, and seizures have yielded some success in disrupting cartel operations. However, these tactics often prove to be temporary setbacks. When one leader is captured or killed, another is waiting in the wings to take their place. The cyclical nature of the drug trade ensures a steady supply of recruits willing to risk their lives for a shot at wealth and power. The transnational nature of organized crime poses significant challenges for law enforcement. Cartels operate across borders, taking advantage of differences in laws, resources, and political will. Effective collaboration between countries is essential to disrupt these networks. But such cooperation is often hampered by mistrust, corruption, and competing priorities. The increasing use of technology by criminal organizations has further complicated law enforcement efforts. Encrypted messaging apps make it difficult to intercept communications, while cryptocurrencies provide a degree of anonymity that makes it harder to track financial transactions. Law enforcement agencies must constantly adapt their strategies and invest in new technologies to keep pace with the evolving tactics of their adversaries. Section 7. Starving the Beast. Disrupting the financial infrastructure of organized crime is crucial to dismantling these criminal enterprises. Cartels thrive on their ability to generate and move vast sums of money, using their ill-gotten gains to corrupt officials, purchase weapons, and expand their operations. Cutting off their access to these funds is essential to weakening their grip on power. Strengthening anti-money laundering regulations is paramount. This requires closing loopholes that allow criminals to move money through shell companies, offshore accounts, and other opaque financial vehicles. Greater transparency in financial transactions is needed to make it more difficult for cartels to hide their illicit activities. International cooperation is essential to combating money laundering. Cartels operate across borders, exploiting differences in financial regulations and enforcement mechanisms. Harmonizing anti-money laundering laws and sharing financial intelligence between countries can help to close these gaps and make it more difficult for criminals to move money with impunity. Targeting the facilitators of financial crime such as corrupt bankers, lawyers, and accountants is another important strategy. These individuals provide the expertise and connections that allow cartels to launder their money and operate with a veneer of legitimacy. Holding them accountable for their actions can send a powerful message that such complicity will not be tolerated. Section 8. Communities as battlefields. The fight against organized crime cannot be won solely through law enforcement action. It requires a comprehensive approach that addresses the root causes of crime and empowers communities to resist the allure of these criminal organizations. Education, job creation, and social programs are essential tools in this fight, providing alternatives to the lure of easy money and a life of crime. Investing in at-risk communities is critical. This means providing access to quality education, job training, and economic opportunities. It means creating safe spaces for young people and providing them with the support and guidance they need to make positive choices. Community policing, which emphasizes building trust and partnerships between law enforcement and the communities they serve, can play a vital role in preventing crime and reducing violence. When communities trust the police, they are more likely to report criminal activity and cooperate with investigations. Public awareness campaigns can help to educate communities about the dangers of organized crime and the tactics used by these groups to recruit new members. By highlighting the devastating consequences of involvement in criminal activity, these campaigns can deter individuals from joining gangs and encourage them to seek out positive alternatives. Section 9. A call to arms. The fight against organized crime is a battle for the soul of America. It is a battle that will require a sustained and multifaceted effort from all segments of society. Law enforcement must be given the resources and support they need to combat these criminal enterprises. But the solution goes far beyond arrests and prosecutions. We must address the root causes of crime: poverty, inequality, and lack of opportunity. We must invest in at-risk communities, providing young people with alternatives to the lure of gangs and violence. We must empower communities to resist the influence of organized crime and build a brighter future for themselves and their children. This is not just a law enforcement issue, it is a societal issue. It is a call to action for all Americans to stand up and be counted in the fight against organized crime. By working together, we can create a safer, more just, and more equitable society for all.